Hello users, I'm Yella Hella and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to talk about the two most recent Pixar films. One being an original story about a girl who transfers her consciousness into a robotic beaver, directed by Daniel Chang. He's the same guy who made the We Bare Bears cartoon for Cartoon Network, which I remember enjoying as a kid, so maybe I'll enjoy Hoppers. I haven't seen a lot of recent films the studio has put out this decade, except for like Inside Out 2, which I remember liking. Anyways, the other film we are going to talk about is the fifth installment of the Toy Story franchise, and this one is about Bonnie getting a tablet, which despite what a lot of people say on how unnecessary the fifth movie is, which I agree, I still think it's an interesting concept. Back when it was still in the works, I thought the idea of Toy Story tackling the relationship between kids and technology was pretty interesting. To be fair, a lot of kids probably spend more time on an iPad or other devices than they do playing with toys nowadays. So Toy Story 5, exploring that topic, could actually work really well. But we'll see how well it's executed in this review. And more importantly, we'll see which Pixar film I prefer. We are going to start with Hoppers and then Toy Story 5. And finally, we will see which film I prefer. This is our first double review of the channel. Just ignore this existing. Anyways, this is our first double movie review of the channel. And if you enjoy this video and want to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, so please help me make that a reality. I also have a Discord server, why not join if you're interested. Also, spoiler warning for people who haven't seen the films. You've been warned. Let's not waste any more time, let's quickly hop into Hoppers. Let's quickly talk about the plot of the movie. Hoppers follows Mabel, an animal lover who has a special connection to a glade that she used to visit with her grandmother. The problem is that the mayor wants to build a highway through the glade, which would destroy the animal's home. When Mabel goes to her university at night, she discovers this new technology that allows humans to hop their consciousness into robotic animals, which they call Hoppers. Hey, it's like the title of the movie. She decides to hop into a robotic beaver so she can enter the glade's animal community and try to convince the animals to help save their home. There she meets King George, the leader of the pond, and discovers that the animal world is a lot more complicated and a lot weirder than she expected. Honestly, not a bad premise. Let's talk about the cast real quick and what I think about them. Mabel, voiced by Piper Curda, is our main protagonist. Ever since she was a kid, she loved animals, to the point where she actually stole the animals from her school, which got her into trouble. She gets angry and frustrated, but her grandmother shows her the glade, which helps her calm down. From then on, Mabel develops a strong connection to the glade and starts spending a lot of time there with her grandmother. So we can definitely see why she's angry about the mayor building a highway through it. I think the film did a phenomenal job introducing her character. In the second act, we get to see Mabel actually interact and bond with the animals, especially King George. And while she's still determined to save the glade, she starts realizing that things aren't as simple as she thought. Her impulsiveness eventually causes some serious consequences, especially when the Animal Council gets involved. And then, in the third act, Mabel finally realizes that her anger has been clouding her judgment. Instead of just fighting everyone who gets in her way, she starts working with both the animals and Jerry to actually solve the problem. And I think that's a decent character arc for her. She doesn't stop caring, she learns how to actually work with people. Mayor Jerry, voiced by John Hamm, is basically the main obstacle standing in Mabel's way. I like that he's not just some random villain, his plans directly threaten the glade and the animals, so he gives Mabel an actual reason to fight against him. And honestly, I really enjoyed him. I also think the car scene near the climax was pretty intense and kinda funny. Dr. Sam, voiced by Kathleen Najimy, is Mabel's biology professor and the inventor of the Hoppers technology, which allows people to understand animals even more. I'd say she serves her purpose pretty nicely, mainly helping introduce the technology and giving Mabel the means to enter the animal world. King George, voiced by Bobby Moynihan, is the leader of the pond. He's a very cheerful and enthusiastic guy who takes his job as a king pretty seriously. He creates the pond rules to help all the animals live together and keep things balanced. When Mabel arrives at the pond, George welcomes her to help her understand how the animal community works. He eventually becomes pretty important to Mabel as she learns more about the animals and the world she's trying to protect. We also learn that he isn't just the king of the pond, but mostly the king of the mammals. And when we enter the council, we see more monarchs, like the king of birds, the king of amphibians, the queen of insects, etc, etc. And I think all of them are decent characters. But since they don't really have a huge role, like King George, I don't feel like it's necessary to talk about them. Except one, and that would be Titus, the insect prince, and later the Insect King, voiced by Dave Franco. He's the main antagonist of the movie, and after his mother's death, he takes over as the Insect King. He then takes control of the Animal Council and plans to lead a revolution against the humans, eventually wanting insects to rule over the other animals as well. I'll say he's not really a big antagonist or anything. Heck, him becoming the villain didn't feel that huge or impactful. And you may think I'd be disappointed by that, but honestly, I don't really think the film needed some huge villain. This movie is more about Mabel and her wanting to save her glade, and I don't think we needed a villain for that. But I think Titus served his purpose during the climax, and plus, he's pretty heckin' funny. And that's all the characters I wanted to talk about. I'll quickly go over some miscellaneous stuff so we can get into Toy Story 5. I think the humor in this film was great. I can see some people not vibing with it, but it personally never took me out of the movie, and I think it fits Hoppers really well. The pacing was also pretty good. I never felt like scenes were moving too fast or too slow, and the animation looks great. I know some people aren't fans of this more stylized Pixar art style, but personally, I prefer it over the more realistic look Pixar has used before, and sometimes used in their sequels now. And that's all I have to say about Hoppers. It's easily one of my favorite Pixar movies of this decade, and I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Now let's see if Toy Story 5 is better or worse than Hoppers. So Toy Story 5 takes place after the events of the fourth movie, with Jessie now leading Bonnie's toys while Buzz serves as her deputy. Things change when Bonnie gets a new smart tablet called Lilypad, which quickly becomes her favorite and makes the toys question whether Bonnie even needs them anymore. Lilypad tries to help Bonnie make friends through her tablet, while Jessie and the other toys try to prove that traditional playtime still matters, and that's basically the setup for Toy Story 5. So let's see if Pixar managed to make this fifth installment worthwhile. It's a good idea to shift the focus to Jessie this time. I don't remember a lot from the fourth film, but I do remember one thing. Jessie was barely in it. Okay, she was in the film, but they didn't give her any major role. So it's great to see Jessie becoming the main protagonist of this film. I think she definitely deserves the spotlight after being pushed to the side for so long. She wants the best for Bonnie, and that's great. Jessie and the toys are pretty concerned ever since Bonnie got a lily pad, since she's clearly becoming Bonnie's new favorite. And I like that Jessie isn't just worried about the toys being replaced, she's worried that Bonnie might stop caring about playtime altogether. This creates a pretty interesting conflict between Jessie and Lilypad because they both want the best for Bonnie, but they have completely different ideas on how to help her. I guess now that we are here, I can now talk about Lilypad. She's alright in this movie. I like how she quickly interrupts the characters whenever they try to talk to her. It's kinda funny. I don't have any strong feelings about her as a character, but she works well as the main obstacle for the toys. And she has a character arc of her own as well. At first, Lilypad genuinely believes she's helping Bonnie. She thinks connecting with people online is the best way for Bonnie to make friends, but she eventually realizes that she's actually making Bonnie more isolated. She learns that technology isn't necessarily bad, but it shouldn't replace genuine human connection. And by the end, she puts aside her differences with Jessie and helps the toys connect Bonnie with Blake. I actually think that's a pretty good character arc for her. And in general, I like how the film doesn't completely demonize the devices, which would be pretty boring. I'm glad they found a balance to it. I still have an issue with it, but I'll talk about that later. Speaking of Blaze, she is a 9.5-year-old girl who lives on a ranch with her family. She's really into technology, but she also loves animals and still enjoys playing with toys. And Jessie has the brilliant idea to let her be friends with Bonnie, with the help of Smarty Pants, who I actually really enjoy in this film. He was a great side character. I'd say I didn't care for the other two, but let's not get ahead of ourselves and continue talking about Blaze. I like Blaze because she shows that being into technology doesn't mean you have to stop enjoying traditional playtime. She's pretty much the perfect person for Jessie to try and connect with Bonnie. And that's great for Bonnie because ever since she got her lily pad, she doesn't play with toys anymore. Well, her quote-unquote new friends made her stop playing with them because they made fun of her for it, which made her pretty embarrassed. I felt like that was important to bring up because it shows that Blaze is exactly the kind of friend Bonnie needs. Now I'll talk about some of my problems with Toy Story 5. I didn't really enjoy Woody in this movie, especially his arguments with Buzz. It felt pretty out of character to me because these two have been friends for a very long time. I know you could argue that Woody hasn't seen Buzz in a while, but personally, I don't really buy it. You can still get along with friends even if you haven't seen them in a long time, you know? Buzz was alright in this movie, though I'd say he's definitely better here than he was in Toy Story 4. The other thing I don't like in this film is more of a nitpick, but how the hell does a potty training toy like Smarty Pants send messages? I know Smarty Pants was made by the same company that made Lilypad, but it still doesn't make any sense to me. Smarty Pants feels like a much less advanced device with basically one purpose, yet somehow it can communicate with everyone. It's not a huge deal, but I definitely noticed it. But my biggest issue with this film is this. I don't think they went all out with the technology concept. I mean, yeah, Lilypad is the main antagonist, and the movie does talk about technology replacing traditional playtime, but I feel like they played it pretty safe. They rarely explore the downsides of kids relying on electronic devices, and I feel like there's a lot they could have done with the idea. Take Toy Story 3 for example. One of the main ideas was Andy growing up and eventually becoming an adult. So of course, he doesn't play with toys anymore, and I feel like that movie went all out with that concept. But with Toy Story 5, I feel like its main idea is a little more toned down. There's nothing wrong with the message they went for, but I just think they could have done a lot more with it. Now, what carries this movie is easily the emotional moments. If you haven't seen the film, Blaze's house is actually Emily's old house, Jessie's first owner's home, who we've seen in Toy Story 2. I'm glad they didn't make this feel like a pure nostalgia bait. Having a completely new family living there helps prevent that. When Jessie goes to the tree where she used to play with Emily, she finds a box buried in the ground. Inside is a photo of Emily and her daughter, along with the letter saying, "Jessie, you will always be my little cowgirl." Jessie then realizes that Emily named her daughter after her. And I think that's such a sweet moment because all of these years, Jessie thought Emily had forgotten about her, but this shows that she never really did. Now I'll quickly talk about some smaller stuff. The animation looks great, which isn't really surprising, but I especially like the more stylized scenes, representing the child's imagination, which works really well. And I'm curious to see Pixar go even further with this style in Gato. I also really enjoyed the multiple Buzz scenes. My favorite was when one of the Buzzes finally has an owner, and the other Buzzes go to see how happy he was. I also liked how their silly storyline eventually connects back to the main plot. They might seem unnecessary, but honestly, I wasn't bothered by them. I actually really enjoyed those scenes. I also like how the ending doesn't feel like a definitive conclusion to the franchise. Apparently, the 6th movie is going to be the end of Bonnie's story, and honestly, I think that's a pretty cool way to structure it. You could have the original trilogy as the Andy trilogy, and the new trilogy as the Bonnie trilogy, with each movie focusing on a different main toy. Toy Story 4 focuses on Woody, Toy Story 5 focuses on Jessie, and maybe Toy Story 6 could focus on Buzz. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually kind of excited for Toy Story 6. And those are my thoughts on Toy Story 5. I'd give this movie a 7 out of 10. Yeah, I prefer Hoppers. I think the comedy and the story carried that movie. And while Toy Story 5 also had a great story and decent comedy, I think it has more noticeable flaws that made me enjoy Hoppers more. But which movie do you guys prefer? And what are your thoughts on both? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. I'm Yalla Hella, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!